What's going on, my broskies? My name is Toadski, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video, and with the brand new One Piece Day Sugo-Fest and the Super Sugo-Fest Luffy versus Kaido, of course, we're going to go ahead and make a dedicated video discussing a little bit more in-depth information in regards to his abilities and my personal opinions on using this character thus far. So we've got some Garp Challenge content, we also have up against an arena, and we also have against Grand Voyage level 5. So we've got a wide variety of content to showcase this Luffy with. Without further ado, let's talk about his captain effect and see what it actually does. So first of which, it is actually technically a rainbow captain, but the more free spirit characters that are on your crew, you do get more of an attack boost. So you can get a scaling between a 5 times to 6 times attack boost based on the number of free spirits. So if you've got a full team of free spirit, it's a 6 times attack boost to the crew. He also provides a 1.3 health boost, quick and recovery slots will be beneficial, and then if you have 4 or more free spirit characters on the crew, he gives you 10 turns of burn and bind removal. So I love the fact that he does have at least some piece of utility there. Removing burn isn't super common, I would say, but removing the bind is obviously a fantastic component that this Luffy gets access to. It is a little bit strange that you do need to have 4 free spirit characters in order to get access to that utility, but when you're using Luffy, you want to try and build a full team of free spirits anyway, so I don't think it's that real big of a deal at all. It can be a bit of an issue if you are planning on using dual units, where like one side of the dual unit isn't a free spirit, but you know, there's the condition of having 4 of them, so in most cases it's not going to be an issue. He has this other effect in his captain effect where it says that any time you use a special to give you an attack boost, he just passively adds 0.25 to that buff. So it means if you use a special to get a 2 times attack boost, then it becomes 2.25, and it is also stackable with other effects, so you can still use other specials to further buff that attack boost, for example. So that's a really neat effect. Versus Kaido and Yamato back in the day also had this type of captain effect. It's really strong, just to give additional bonus damage to specials that grant attack boosts. It then says that if you have 6 free spirit characters on the crew, and then you use a special ability to remove resilience, damage reduction, damage threshold, or defense up, it adds 1 turn of removal. So this is a unique effect that this Luffy has that no other character has had access to. So if you have a 4-turn removal of defense up, then it becomes a 5-turn removal, meaning if you have double Luffy, you add 2 additional turns of these gimmick removals, which is pretty fantastic. The only real issue with using, you know, double Luffy, for example, is the fact that you don't get cooldown reduction in his captain effect. So if you are up against short form content, if you don't get cooldown at the start of the quest, then, you know, this is going to be kind of an annoying captain to use in content. So you do have to keep that in mind. Furthermore, his captain ability continues on if you have a full team of free spirit characters, and then you also have a territory free spirit class on the field, then he also gives a 6.5 times attack boost instead to your free spirit characters. So very strong multipliers in his captain, which is the draw to using him. Furthermore, if you use his action special and you hit an excellent while he is your own captain, it doesn't count if he's the friend captain, it has to be your own captain. Then he also adds an additional effect for 3 turns, where if you activate an orb boost, he passively adds 0.25 to it, and also will add a further 1 turn removal of resilience, defense up, threshold, or rainbow shield removal. So he technically removes 2 turns of it as a captain when you activate that action special with excellent, which is pretty strong as well. So overall, the captain ability is insanely strong, but as I mentioned, the only massive drawback is that the lack of cooldown reduction could be an issue if you plan to use him in short form content. So moving on to Luffy's special ability, the special ability is quite strong also, where it does apply the brand new territory free spirit mechanic for 3 turns, which means you need to have a full team of free spirit, which is kind of like what this character is built on doing anyway. So if you have 6 free spirit characters on the crew, you get 1.5 times damage bonus and 25% damage reduction. It's really nice because the territory buff is not like an actual buff on the field, I suppose. It's a buff to the field, not to your crew, which means that when the opponent activates an ability to remove your beneficial effects, then it actually cannot remove this territory buff. So it's a passive 1.5 bonus that just cannot be removed by the opponent, and this stacks with other effects like your super class bonus, giving statistical increases to your free spirit units. So yeah, I think this is a really powerful component that can just stack and add additional damage where you wouldn't have had it previously. Furthermore, it will also remove 10 turns of attack down, so again, nice piece of utility there to do that. He then also gives you a conditional boost against enemies that are inflicted with defense down or that have increased damage taken, and this conditional boost can scale between a 2.5 times multiplier at a bare minimum, but can scale all the way up to a 3 times multiplier based on your tap timing during the action special. So in a lot of good cases, a 3 times conditional boost is absurdly strong. It is the best conditional boost that we currently have in the game, and you can just fulfill 2 requirements in order to actually get access to this conditional boost. Of course, there is a component in his kit, which we'll talk about in a moment, that can grant you this conditional boost, but it means if you have some other character on the crew to grant defense down, then this will also help you proc that conditional boost. Now that buff does last for 2 turns, and then it does further state in his special ability that if you have an attack boost, an orb boost, and a chain lock effect activated when you launch the special, it will extend those buffs, attack, orb, and chain, all by 2 turns. Now that's an incredible modification of buffs. Removing or just adding 2 turns to any buff is incredibly strong, but to do it to 3 separate buffs on the crew is really good. And then further says that, you know, if you actually don't have any of those buffs at all, then he gives you a 3.0 chain boundary for 1 turn, meaning that if you have like an attack boost, an orb boost, you use 1 Luffy special to get a really good chain boundary. A secondary Luffy will have like the reduced redundancy, where it can also extend your further attack, orb, and the chain boundary that at least one of the Luffys gives you, which can just add more damage over multiple different stages, which is lovely. Furthermore, if you have a full team of free spirit characters on the crew when you launch his special, it will add 0.25 to your conditional boost, including the effect from the special, which means that the conditional boost of Luffy that he has, if you tap excellent with his action special, can scale all the way up to 3.25. As we said, the best conditional boost in the game. So when you really boil it down, it does the territory for 3 turns, attack down removal by 10, up to a 3 times conditional boost against defense down and increased damage taken for 2 turns. And then he also says if you have attack, orbs, and chain, you buff all those by 2 turns. And then if you don't have that, you get a chain boundary, 3.0 for 1 turn. And then also buff your conditionals by 0.25 with a full team of free spirit. So overall, incredibly strong, and it's going to be very good when you take it into something like a super boss Kizuna. This is just going to add heaps and heaps of damage with unique buffs and high multipliers that we haven't seen before. And then, of course, the unique component about this unit is that he has access to the Versus effect. Now, the Versus effect is very interesting. In terms of the requirement, you need to tap on recovery and Wano slots, or have 8 turns past total. So the value of his gauge is 8, meaning that every time you consume a Wano slot or a recovery slot, it adds 1 to that gauge. But every time you move on to a new turn, including enemy preemptive attacks, it does also add 1 to the counter. So as long as you can just like stall 8 turns, you don't even have to consume any slots, right? Or if you have like all these preemptive attacks and all of that, that adds to it very quickly, as you'll see in the Grand Voyage clip that you're seeing right now. Usually getting Versus effects to activate is very tricky because it requires you to consume certain slots and usually takes quite a long time to generate. But due to the way that Luffy and Kaido are kind of built, as long as you just keep moving along, have enemy preemptive attacks activate, and here and there you can consume a recovery or a Wano slot, then that's going to generate Luffy's gauge very quickly. Do keep in mind though that only the slots consumed by Luffy will actually add to his gauge. So that is the little bit of the drawback, I would say, because only Luffy has to consume recovery and Wano to add to it. But as long as you keep passing turns, it's going to be able to be activated very quickly. And the effect gives a 1.75 increased damage taken to the enemy for 1 turn that goes through all status effects, and then adds a 1.2 multiplier to your attack buffs for 1 turn, which can scale up to 4.5. So if you have, a 2 times attack buff, you use his special ability, it actually multiplies that attack buff by 1.2, and this can scale quite a lot. If you've got a really big attack boost, use this effect of the Versus special, and you just get massive multipliers that are withstanding on your attack buff that's applied to the crew. And then finally, the final component to Luffy is he does have access to Final Tap. It's very easily activatable. You just activate it on the final boss stage, and you need to have 5 free spirit characters on the crew. And in this team example against this Grand Voyage, against Buggy, we get to get access to it basically every single turn. And this final tap is very strong at level 5. It gives you a Wano slot guaranteed, including going through super block slots, and it also adds 1.0 damage dealt by normal attacks of other Free Spirit characters on top of this character's final damage. So it means that if you have your full team of Free Spirit and you do like 1 billion damage, then Luffy's final tap will have an additional 1 billion damage added on top of it. So this is a great final tap Sugo special. The only real issue is that it can't stack with some of the other powerful Rush Sugo specials that we have in the game. For example, like the Psy Gear 5 Luffy, or you know, the 10th anniversary characters that have a Rush on their last tap. You know, there's a bit of overlap between these units, but at least some of those characters that have rushes that can be used in the early stages of your taps, in the first, second, third taps, that can be used with this Luffy, as long as you have like Free Spirit teams, for example, like the 10th anniversary Ace having Rush as your first tap, you have a Super Tandem somehow trigger in the middle of the chain, and then final tap with Luffy. It's going to be a very, very strong Free Spirit damage dealt with this guy as your captain, obviously getting access to a lot of components and being up to a 6.5 times captain, which is like the best in the game in terms of multipliers. I think this character is very, very good. I don't think he's the best in the game. I still think some other characters are slightly more useful than him, but I do think that this is a really interesting step forward for Super Sugo-Fest exclusive. And let me know your thoughts and opinions about this guy down below in the comment section. Really hope you guys enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun to use this guy, Luffy and Kaido, and of course we will have a showcase video dedicated to Kaido at some point in the near future. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. But on that, guys, I will see you guys within the next video.